Hi. Recently, I covered a recent case, October 2019, of a 4-year-old child in a wheelchair on her way to school being verbally abused by a man who claimed she should never have been born, and abusively attacking the mother as well, saying she should have had her aborted. Okay, that this is on the way to school. The little girl is now afraid of men. This is from, I will leave the link to that story under this video. This is from a year ago, 12th of October. Must be something about October where suddenly guys suddenly feel at liberty to go out abusing disabled children, because this one involved 2 mothers and 3 children, a 5-month-old baby, a girl aged 3 and a 10-year-old disabled girl in a wheelchair, attacked during a day out in Manchester. They were screamed and shouted at by these 2 men outside Boots in Market Street, and it was on the afternoon of August 20, and then the mothers went to a McDonald's, and the men arrived at the McDonald's restaurant and started shouting again derogatory comments and threatening violence. One of the mothers was punched in the face and a drink was thrown at the 10-year-old, the disabled 10-year-old in the wheelchair, but covered all of the children, including the baby and one of the mothers. The victims do not have any visible scars but were left traumatised, the force added. And where has all this hate crime come from? We know. Rupert Bitty Murdoch, the man behind Brexit, one of the figures behind Brexit, one of the figures that hopes to reap huge financial rewards, a man already filthy rich beyond anybody's wildest imaginations, more money than he could ever even spend in his lifetime, all stored away in tax havens that he sucked out of the British economy. Men like him, that the EU was set tax regulations to say, no, sorry. You're not sucking our nations dry till we're basically destitute. He is a Tory Eton ragmag propaganda machine there to manipulate the public consciousness from the bottom. So, we know there's been a campaign of hate crime, a campaign of hate against welfare, people on benefits, whether they're disabled, sick, unemployed, struggling, working, low-income families receiving benefits. The Sun's there to pour scorn, hatred, derision on them all, because apparently it's them that have crashed the economy, when we know it isn't. We know that these bankers crashed the economy through their own fraudulent and criminal activities. We know that a fair portion of the businesses registered in Britain right now are nothing more than money laundering fronts, and behind which we find all kinds of crimes, from human trafficking, organised child sexual abuse, illegal drugs. And, we need to look at this situation of prohibition and understand once and for all that, look, prohibition achieves nothing except it sustains a whole criminal underworld and empowers every kind of criminal who do rely on things like organised child abuse to provide the funds to buy the drugs. That absorbs huge amounts of police time, who apparently haven't got time to go around investigating children's crime reports. They've not got the resources because they're all too busy chasing after illegal drugs. And then we find that actually a fair portion of the police force itself is corrupted by people who are dealing in these illegal drugs, and also participating in child abuse, and also protecting the people who are committing crimes against children. And as the Rotherham case has exposed, even criminalising, prosecuting the children involved, or the parents who try to confront the abusers. You really couldn't make this stuff up, but this is Britain. This is Britain. and now they've delivered Brexit. And that still the hate crimes against the disabled are rising, even online hate crime. They're even targeting them online. Fresh evidence that benefits ground your rhetoric is causing hate crime. We don't need any more evidence, do we? As a nation, when we witness a 4-year-old girl being attacked because she's disabled by a grown man, something's very wrong. Something is very wrong with our society. When we look at the government that's in now, that has actually tried to overthrow Parliament, and repeatedly, I've shared the intel as to what makes this government a criminal. We know from Thatcher onward, David Cameron, he needs to be investigated and arrested for his fraudulent, for his involvement, his criminal involvement in fraudulent businesses and investment funds, okay, for his involvement in the illegal production and sale of nuclear weapons, for using that then also as a pretext to steal millions from the public purse that goes straight into the Tory party accounts and therefore funds them to commit even more crimes, that even they use those illegal nuclear weapons to convince Tony Blair that these illegal nuclear weapons went missing and that they are in Iraq. So we have the Iraq war. And then next minute we've got Cameron in power, who's there bailing, continuing the bankers' bailouts and at the same time demonising the poorest people in society. To blame them for austerity, to blame the immigrants, the disabled, the sick, the unemployed, the low-income families. To target other vulnerable minority social groups like Muslims and Jews even. Dividing our country and then imposing Brexit on us that is nothing more or less other than protecting people like Rupert Murdoch's interests. Rupert Murdoch, who is behind the hate campaign against the most vulnerable people of our society. Now, I have repeatedly called on the security services to obey the law. And we now need to see you arresting Boris Johnson, David Cameron, Dominic Cummings, the whole lot of them. We know that they've been colluding with foreign powers on behalf of plots and schemes that will leave British people dead. I mean, the latest one from Dispatches telling us about the plans for the NHS to be bringing British prescription charges to the same as that of America. In America, where people are dying because they can't afford the insulin. And this is people who actually have insurance. They want to bring that to Britain. In Britain, it's 60p for a packet of aspirin. In America, it amounts to, 7-8 quid. We're talking about people living on austerity. On a lot of them on a level of benefits that cannot even sustain their lives. That people are queuing up outside food banks. And the people who don't have to pay prescription charges, who does that payment fall to then? It falls to the government, doesn't it? The public purse. It falls to the NHS out of their funds. It falls to the public purse to pay these extortionate sums. So suddenly, instead of paying 60p for a sick, disabled person on benefits, paying their prescription was only 160p, suddenly it's 7 quid. all coming out of the public purse. Going where? Is it going to be circulated in Britain, in the British economy? No. Going to American corporations who, do they pay any taxes? No. They store it all in their offshore tax havens. And meanwhile, people die. Austerity has murdered 130,000 people. The Brexit that is being imposed specifically on behalf of the same criminal bankers who crashed the economy, who control the Tory party, who dealt in illegal weapons, money laundering, fake, fraudulent companies, as exposed by Gordon Bowden. I'll leave you the link again. I'll leave you the intel for Brexit. You people need to arrest them because that's your job. Okay, your job is there to protect Britain from threats to our national security, and that includes threats to overthrow or undermine parliamentary democracy by political, industrial or violent means, and also attacks against our economy. To safeguard the economic well-being of the United Kingdom against threats posed by the actions or intentions of persons outside the British Islands. Well, we know for a fact that these people in government right now are agents of foreign interests, and that does include America and it does include Israel, who both of them are hostile forces against the EU. They do not like free trade unions, they do not like human rights, they do not like workers' rights, and they do not like environmental protection laws. And we've seen that the moment Trump has got into America as president, the first thing that he's done is axe all the environmental protections. We see the same happening in Britain. We understand without a shadow of a doubt, that their plans, this government's plans for Britain, is a tax haven. And they don't care if that means the breaking up of our United Kingdom to achieve their ambitions. So yeah, we lose Ireland, we lose Scotland, we'll just be England and Wales. Probably Wales itself will break away. So that doesn't matter. They don't even care if the Tory party, if they lose the Tory party completely disappears and vanishes, because they won't need a Tory party, will they? They will not need a Tory party, because we know very well what happens in a tax haven, don't we? Jersey, for example, has never, ever had a general election. There's no democracy in tax havens. So we're talking about a plot that not only threatens to break up our United Kingdom, not only threatens to impose austerity on steroids against the British people, not only intends to murder British people by corporatisation of our NHS, but also intends to make Britain, Singapore on the Thames, basically, a hub for all the illicit finance in this world that isn't going to be shared among the people, no. And there will be no general elections because the tax havens do not run on a democracy. And again, here's the evidence. I've shared it before, I'm sharing it again. I'll just explain to you. Jersey has never had a general election in its entire history. It does not have checks and balances or separation of the legislative and executive and judicial functions. So what we have here is a known plot and plan orchestrated with direct involvement of hostile foreign powers who are hostile to everything that the people of World War II had established in Britain, that is now by today our culture, including our free trade union as part of the European Union. They stand against it all. We're talking hostile powers, and their ultimate goal is to totally destroy our democracy, to annihilate it, to erase it, and in that process impose extreme austerity on the people, and knowing full well that people will die in their hundreds of thousands, because we've already lost 130,000 while we're in the EU, while we have our rights, while we have a democracy. If they can do all that in a democracy, how many hundreds of thousands are at risk if they get their Brexit? Their evil plans, and they have lied to the British people, and they have used their same Etonian Tory ragmags to incite support through xenophobia and fear and hate. People have been attacked, people have lost their lives, people have been injured and traumatised. And still you people have done nothing. You are there to protect this nation from agents of foreign powers. Boris Johnson is an agent of a foreign power. David Cameron is an agent of foreign powers. They're all agents of foreign powers that fundamentally stand against the EU and against the British people. And they have murdered British people, and they will murder more British people through industrial or violent or political means. That is what they are doing. That is what they have done. And I call on Parliament now to stand up, because this is not going to be in service or to further the interests of any political party. We're talking about furthering the interests of Britain as a united kingdom, as Britain as an independent economy, as Britain as a caring society that upholds and honours human rights, that provides a national health service, that provides a system of welfare for its people, that does not live like a banana republic, that operates as a democracy. And this is the threat. Now, don't tell me you can't see it. The evidence is all out there in public to such a degree that all the research that has gone on, that, you know, that's been done by amazing people like retired RAF engineer Gordon Bowden, people like Gordon Duff, veterans today who is himself an intelligence analyst. They have uncovered the information. It's out in public. I've shared it here. I've put it together and explained, look, we are dealing with an attack that has been going on since Thatcher. They've been operating by stealth, and they've been profiting and benefiting from their crimes. And if they continue with this crime of Brexit now, and even Tory members themselves have had to leave the Tory party, have been expelled from the Tory party because they themselves have stood up against it. Now, when you're dealing with a parliament where you've witnessed people from the party, the politicians from the ruling party that's in government, step over onto the other side, you should know, security services, that there's something seriously wrong here. And Parliament should not have had to take Boris Johnson to court. You should have been acting. You should have acted a long time ago. You're not doing your jobs. And I will say to you that none of you have a right to attend any of the war ceremonies, the Remembrance Sunday this year, if you can tolerate what is happening, if you cannot now honour the law that has been established to safeguard the British people. You're not there to protect Crown territories, tax havens. You're not there to protect the government. You are there to defend and protect Parliament, and you are there to defend and protect our economy and democracy. And they are at risk, at a very, very high level of risk. So Parliament, forget all the shenanigans about arguing, voting of whether Boris Johnson can call a general election. How could anybody even think it was possible to have a general election under rule of a force of tyranny, a criminal government? How could anybody even think that you could have a general election or even another referendum under rule of such a criminal power? It is ridiculous. So they have to be removed, they need to be arrested, and we need an interim government while we have a general election, and then let the people decide. But otherwise, we are facing the risk. These people cannot be allowed to get away with their crimes any longer, because we've seen how they go from bad to worse to terrible. And it is terror. The British people have been terrorised, we are being terrorised, and this terror then threatens the whole of Europe and actually the whole of the world, and we've witnessed the terror that they've inflicted on the Middle East through their packs of lies. As Catherine Gold has already exposed, the Iraq war was based on what? A pack of lies? Even medical professionals have stepped forward and stated that they believe they do not accept that Dr. David Kelly committed suicide. And you think you can cover up, keep on covering up even the crimes that they commit, their councils commit in central London against people, the people of Grenfell, even that's been covered up, and we're going to blame the fire services. Is that any different to the Sun blaming the poor and the sick and disabled for the banking collapse? And now the very people left to mop up the mess at Grenfell get blamed for it. Get blamed for the deaths. It's disgusting. It's sick. It's evil. And I, for one, will not swallow it. And how can any of you working for the security services swallow it? How can you? You are the last line of defence now. For this, for Britain as a nation, as a united kingdom, as an independent economy, as a democracy, as a humane nation that upholds human rights and a system of welfare for its people. But instead you remaining silent, and you're supporting who? Rupert Bitty Murdoch and all his entourage and all the evil foreign agents, the supreme supremacists who think they have a right to rob, rape and kill with impunity. Parliament, demand the arrests.